All right, we're at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our Martin County Water District Work Group, our quarterly meeting. Hope you all are doing well on this spring day. We'll get started here in a moment, but just some housekeeping. As always, please keep your lines muted unless you're going to speak. We'll have our speakers give their presentations, and if you have questions, of course, unmute your mic. You can unmute your mic and ask them, or you can put them in the chat, and we'll try to get to those throughout the meeting. We'll also have a time for some open discussion and comments. So we, happy to accommodate those as we move through the agenda. And of course, the agenda is right in front of you, and we'll go through our updates as we typically do and find out what's going on. But before we fully kick off, I want to open the floor to Deputy Secretary John Lyons.
Thank you, Amanda. I had a little trouble getting my camera to come on there. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, thanks for participation and the continuing effort that we've been doing for quite a while now as it relates to Martin County Water District and these quarterly meetings. We continue to have the more frequent technical meetings where we kind of get down into the weeds about the issues that the district faces in terms of water loss and line breaks and just generally the move forward to improve the system. So that effort continues. I know it seems slow at times, but we've got a big issue there that we're trying to correct decades worth of issues with. So we appreciate everybody's patience as we continue to move forward. I'm going to keep my remarks brief this afternoon because we've always got a full agenda, and I know everybody wants to hear about the district itself. But I did want to pass along the fact that the cabinet is feverishly working on the infrastructure money from the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that's been passed at the federal level. There's literally hundreds of millions of dollars for various programs that are being distributed to the states. The cabinet will not necessarily will be getting money directly for water and wastewater infrastructure, but all signs point to the fact that Kentucky Infrastructure Authority will be getting additional money to that they earlier received in the form of $250 million for the Cleaner Water Program. There will be more money, probably around $100 million, for more infrastructure purposes, and we will be involved certainly in trying to determine where that money should go, but that again will probably fall to the KIA. And also, I hesitate to bring this up because I don't know much about it, but I did want to put it out there. We saw in as reliable as the Lane report is or isn't, I assume it is reliable. It was announced that Martin County is getting $1.5 million, which will be awarded to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to repair failing water lines, extend new water lines to more than 40 homes that are currently using contaminated well water. This obviously came through Congressman Rogers' office, and I look forward to any information anybody may have on the call today that could give a little more detail about that. Again, we just got that a couple of days ago, and wasn't aware that was coming. So we'll take that as good news for Martin County. More fund infusion is certainly always welcomed, and maybe somebody can speak to that. But with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions during the open discussion, or if somebody has a burning question right now, I'd be happy to take it on behalf of the Secretary, who is getting some well-deserved R&R. Again, we welcome you, and thanks for your participation. Amanda?
All right, thank you, John. Yeah, well, there's lots of infrastructure, not only in water, but other programs here. So it's interesting time as information comes out, slow but sure. So we'll keep everyone posted. So not to hold the agenda up any longer in terms of getting into the updates and finding out what's been going on, I want to welcome Craig Miller, Alliance Water Resources Division Manager, to the floor just to give us an update on operations and what's been going on at the Water District. Craig.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. Appreciate you being with us. Excited to talk to you a little bit about what's been going on in Martin County. A lot of positive things going on. As many of you are aware and have heard of the funding that's come down, multiple sources, including the money that Hal Rogers' office announced. We do know that we have that money has been designated for the line project that had to be removed when we initially bid the water plant improvements and raw water improvements project. So when we bid that project, and it came in significantly higher, the bids came in higher than we had funds allotted for. We moved money from the Warfield Collins Creek line project over into the raw water project, raw water intake and water plant improvement project. So the money that we received from Hal Rogers, our intent is to apply it to that Warfield and Collins Creek line project. So that's a little bit of information on we were aware that that was in the works for quite some time, but it wasn't going to be released until the federal budget was passed. So we're excited to see that happen as well. So moving forward with our report, trying to hit the high notes and not bog everyone down with too much detail. But I know that everybody's interested in what's going on and the positive things that are happening in the water district. So, you know, in keeping with our standard, my standard platform, I'll talk a little bit about some accomplishments. We're going to go over GIS and water loss update. I know we've discussed GIS on many different levels, but I wanted to bring in the GIS today and show you a little bit about some things that we're doing to improve the GIS process, as well as how we're incorporating it with our water loss program that we're trying to implement. And I say trying because I know in our technical subcommittee meeting, I mentioned that every time we answer a question, that question gets answered with about 5 new questions. And I've got a couple of examples for you that I'll show you today. And then as with the last meeting, Steve Cottle with Bell Engineering is here with me today. So he'll be going over the project updates to kind of let you know where we're at. We did have a project meeting today on the water plant improvements and raw water improvements as well. So things are moving forward in a positive manner there. And then when we end up in my portion, you'll be free to ask any questions and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. A big exciting thing for the staff here at the Water District was that Alliance Water Resources purchased a excavator and a trailer for use in Martin County. I took this picture the day I delivered it to them. The guy sitting in the cab there actually had tears in his eyes. He was so excited to have a piece of equipment that they could actually work with. And so grateful for that and the efforts that my company is making to impact this area and make things, make our work environment better for the employees that are working their tails off to make things right. At the wastewater treatment plant, we have, I think we talked about this before, but we've implemented parasitic acid, trying to handle the E. coli issues at both wastewater treatment plants. So we're on a pilot program using parasitic acid at both those plants. Excited about the results that we're seeing with that and training employees on how to properly and safely use that as well. And of course, we're ever moving with the QGIS geosync climate implementation. And I missed 2 zeros there on my GIS mapped meters. So it's actually 2,500. It's supposed to be 2,500 meters have been mapped to date of the roughly 3,500 meters that we know we have in the system. So about 2,500 of those have been mapped to date. Since the start of the year, they've gotten about 800. So they're really making excellent progress on identifying where all the meters are in the system. So we're excited about that. The leak mapping on GIS is a ever continuing process. I think we've got it down to 2 known leaks in the system that are showing up on our map that we're utilizing. So we're moving forward there. And the reservoir is doing very well. We're about 17. Actually, I think JJ told me this morning we're close to 19 feet in the reservoir. So the snow and rain and has really helped keep that reservoir full. We put together a map of the master meter zones. We've identified the zones to the best of our ability. It's kind of a moving target as we continue to study and look at the system from many different levels, you know, from 5,000, 10,000, 30,000 foot views, and really try to look at the hydraulics and understand how the water's moving in the system. We're trying to correlate that with the customers that are in certain zones and associate those with master meters. And we'll talk about that with the water loss program. Continuing with those hydraulic corrections in the system. To date, we've had 4 bores completed on creek crossings that had 3/4 inch lines feeding 4 or 6 inch mains. Those bores have been made with 4-inch polyethylene pipe, specifically at Little Lick, Little Blacklog, Milo Estates, and the 4th one's eluded me. We are working on a 5th right now. We're assessing, which is at the Sweetwater location. So we're working on those bores with the polyethylene pipe that was left over from the Lovely Line replacement project to help with the hydraulic issues of some of the customers in our system. An exciting thing that happened a couple of weeks ago is we've had a hydrant that was leaking and actually broken over in the Warfield area. And right next to the grocery store, as you go into Warfield, there was a hydrant that somebody had hit with a vehicle. And as long as I can remember, as long as I've been here, 2+ years, it's been broken and kind of laying over, and the valve was leaking. So our crew did their first hydrant installation ever. And that was an exciting thing to help them accomplish and to watch them do, and continuing to get better at our jobs and teach them the tools that they need, or teach them the trade and get better in our system. So the dump trailer, 6 new trucks, excavator, training. We have over 10 new licenses in the district. Our distribution supervisor is a class 2 now. He passes 2, which is what the distribution system is rated as a class 2. He passed his 2 yesterday. So we have 2 distribution employees that are class 2s. And then we have some new wastewater operators and wastewater collection licenses, and just continuing to encourage our employees to get educated and to get licensed and certified in the state. So that's exciting to see being accomplished. And I know I had 2 employees in here today signing up for their collections licenses. So we're just continuing to push that every day. I think that we had a target last year of 15 new licenses in the water district. And candidly, I included my local manager's reciprocity licenses just to kind of pump the numbers up. But we had a goal of 15, and with JJ's reciprocity licenses and the efforts that our team made, we actually blew that out of the water, and we ended up with, I think it was 17 total licenses. So we're excited to just continue to see our employees grow and learn the industry. It only helps them as well as us. So just trying to help develop their careers. An interesting thing to talk about is meter reading. I know that in the beginning, a big question was about the accuracy of meter reading. And it's continued to be an issue since we've been here. How do we go about it? Everyone's so spread out. There's such a large area. So many meters that all have to be manually read, and very few radio read meters. And we've gone through several iterations of how we're going to work this meter reading process and cycles and times that we're going to read them. And we try to all hands on deck for 1 week, doing nothing but meter reading. We did that for a long time, and we're starting to struggle with balancing major leaks and major problems in our system, and checking booster stations and turning pumps on that we needed to turn on, and reading meters on time. And towards the end of last year, we had a period where we had some rough issues in the system. We missed the entire week. We ended up reading meters a week late, and then the next week read them on time. And as many of you know, that kind of starts to create this kind of just a back and forth on the customer's meter reads, right? So they'll have a low read 1 month and a high read the next month, and that's frustrating. So towards the end of the year, we had some open positions, and we hired 2 new employees. And what we did is we identified those employees as meter readers. That's what their job is. We created basically an entry-level position and said, you're a utility worker 1, but your sole job is to just read meters. That's all you do. I have both of those employees. I tasked their supervisor is the office manager, so she can control the meters reading cycle when they read meters, make sure they're reading them on time, and getting her and her staff the information in a timely manner. And not only that, but do a quick turnaround anytime there's a reread or a question about reads. So what we've done is we've created a meter reading team that reads meters every day. They read them starting on the 1st all the way through until the meters are read, and they read a specific area the same time every month. So you may have a 1 or 2 day difference on when those meters are read, but it's never going to be a week. Hopefully that's going to help with that accordion kind of effect with meter reading, and customers are going to see more accuracy and in their meter reading, and our guys can get more efficient as they do it. The same guys doing the same areas over and over again, they can find better ways to read the meters until we get a radio read system. The interesting thing about that is, though, since January, we've seen an increase in depth of waters. And that increase in depth of waters has been 10 submitted to prosecution since January. My best guess is that the customers don't know when we're reading their meters. So we're finding these cheater bars more and more and more when we're out reading meters. And tens a considerable amount in the first quarter of 2022. We keep up with that trend, we'll be 40, 50 towards the end of the year, which is a pretty high number of theft. But we're seeing a lot of these, and as you can see with this cheater bar or here in this picture, it's pretty well made from new plumbing, and it's very disappointing when we find these things, but we've been finding them more and more, and we're just continuing to do our job and submitting them to prosecution when we find them. And we've had several customers just come in and pay it and sign up for taps. And we had one customer that I've been after for a little over a year and a half, maybe 2 years, that has been getting free water from the water district for at least 17 years. His story was that he was given a contract when there was an easement, when they put the water line through the creek, which is behind his home. And that with that contract, it provided his property free water for life. And so I visited him 5 or 6 times and asked him if he could produce the contract. I went through all of the district's files. I went to the county courthouse and checked all the easements. I went through every single piece of paperwork that I could find, and I could never find any contract or easement that stated that this person received free water. Regardless of whether the customer received free water or not, it still has to be metered. He didn't even have a meter. To make a long story short, after myself and my supervisor were chased off with a hammer, it took the sheriff and my team to go in and finally get a meter put in the ground, but we did get a meter in the ground. And about a week after the meter went in the ground, the customer's wife came in and set up an account. Consider that a pretty big win. And so every time we find those, we just got to continue to stay the course. It was very difficult. It was very tense situation and very frustrating for the customer and for us. And I understand, and it's not our intent to frustrate our customers, but it is our intent to ensure that we're calculating and accounting for every ounce of water that goes out in our system. And it's important to note that this customer has a auto body shop. So his auto body shop was receiving free water for at least 15 plus years. That's a lot of water, I assure you. Washes cars every day there. So that was a big win. It's a big win for us that we're able to get a meter in the ground, and that customer is now paying for water. Not only are we accounting for it, but he's also paying for it. So that's a good thing. We don't like the thefts, but if we can continue to fight it and help our customers understand that those that are stealing are only hurting the rest of the customers in the district. So as we continue to push that, hopefully that those will get less and less. So we're continuing to do some data collection for our capital improvement plan. One of my goals for this year was to complete at a minimum a 5-year CIP for the district. I know that I've shown you all a sheet several times that has at least a multiple minor improvement projects over $30 million. Myself and Bell Engineering are going to sit down and we're going to break those out into much smaller sections. Steve and I are going to talk this afternoon after our meeting and discuss what areas we want to focus on and try to break them up into smaller sections that are more manageable for grant funding and funding sources in general. Of course, many of you all know earlier this year the PSC released a rate increase, which is going to significantly boost the district's finances. We are looking at hopefully seeing the district in the black. My goal is to see the district in the black by June of this year, and continuing that process. And then we're also in the process of a loan with Kentucky Rural Water, which if Kentucky Rural Water's here, they may want to speak to a little bit more than I. But the board approved the resolution last night to move forward with the process. And then, of course, we'll have to seek PSC approval for that loan. But we are in the works of procuring a loan for the vendor debt. So to get the district out of debt with all of their vendors. And that'll be a huge win. Several vendors are on the verge of suing the water district. We have one that we've been kind of fending off by sending them $10,000 payments every few months because they'd already gotten a lawyer and had attempted suit, and we were able to come to an agreement knowing that we're seeking this loan. So a lot of positives on the financial side of the water district as well. Another important thing I think to note is customer complaint tracking. And working with the Martin County Concerned Citizens, they had one of their major concerns was customer complaints, and customer complaints being accurately identified and approached in a timely manner. And so with our GIS, we have put an added layer onto our GIS where the ladies in the office, when they receive a customer complaint, they can put the complaint on our GIS system, and we can generate reports based on what type of complaint it is. And we've got quite a list of those complaints, but I was trying to bring them up today, and for some reason, GIS is acting up, as you know, the internet does sometimes. But you see these little, I don't know if you can see them, but the little pinkish circles, those are areas where a customer has complained. And this complaint could be anything from, you know, my water bill was too high this month, or my water is cloudy, or they did some work and maybe they didn't do a good enough job with restoration, and just any number of complaints that a customer may have. we're logging those so that we can keep a track of them and just see where we can continue to improve in our customer service. So I think that's a real positive thing as well. In talking about GIS mapping and water loss, I've had a couple of different iterations of this map as well, trying to identify all of the district master meter zones. There is, and you'll have to forgive me because my legend isn't in numerical order, but there is 23 master meter zones in Martin County. And these different master meter zones that are in color, different colors here, each have a master meter for that specific area. As you can see, some of them have several different sub-meters. Some of them are metered specifically off of the INES master meter coming from the plant. So the green here in this, whoops, back up here. I'm going the wrong way. The green here in the center is the INES master meter that comes out of the water plant. And then from there, it breaks down into different subzones. You've got the turkey meter here. You've got buffalo horn. You have cold water, which is this one right here, which is a pretty great one because it's a treed. There's a lot of portions of our system that is treed. So this is one area that is a branch that doesn't have any connections. So we can really get to work quickly on water loss in this specific area. We can really get accurate numbers in water loss on these areas that are branches that are at the end. These get a little bit more convoluted when we start looking at deducting from these master meters and the customers that are in these areas. And like I said earlier, many times as we ask questions and we get those questions answered, those questions are often answered with 5 new questions. The next couple of slides I'm going to show you will give you that example. When I initially started doing this water loss program and trying to implement this program, this was my understanding of how the system worked, how it was treated. I had the INES master meter from the plant, and I had 3 main booster stations coming out of the plant, 40 East, 40 West, and Turkey. And then I had the next sub meters that were under these, and so on and so forth. The flow chart's pretty self-explanatory there. As I've continued to dive into this and get deeper and deeper into it, and this takes field work and office work and field work and office work and going out and turning valves and going out and checking meters and turning meters off and turning meters on, replacing meters that are broken. We have 2 meters that we have to replace. We have them in stock. We just haven't gotten them installed yet. It's been a very difficult and arduous process because, frankly, there's been so much done in this system that we don't really know what lines feed what all the time. This area right here, the 40 East area, initially I believe that the master meter here fed both of these master meters to these tanks. However, these 2 master meters both have higher use or have higher production rates in 4 to 6 million per week than this one did, which didn't make any sense. So after doing more research, this is what I've come up with. Now we can, this is probably still a moving target, but right now it is about as close as I can possibly come to the understanding of how the water flows in Martin County. You have the INES master meter, which is at the plant. That's the overall production meter. And then you have 7 sub-meters of that plant meter. And then from those sub-meters, they each have their own individual sub-meters. 2032 has 5. Otto Brown has 1 at Davella. 40 West has 1 at Marcus Wells, and then you can see it breaks down from there. Buck Creek has Hode and Lovely, and then 292 South and Long Branch go off of those. There's a lot going on here. And when you start looking at customers in each one of these zones and production to these zones, and then removing customer usage to try to assess what water loss is in these areas, it can be exhausting, but I think that we're making some real good progress. And let's see, I'm gonna be there yet. I'll show you a little bit of what I've come up with on my, see if we can get this. Is that coming over? Can you see my Excel spreadsheet? Okay. Thank you. So we have tabs for each one of our master meter zones. And what I can do, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. Is that all in there then? Okay, there we go. So you can see here that I have, this is District Meters 2, cold water. And this is what I had told you earlier, is that one branch where I can really identify what the water loss is in that area. So we take a meter reading at the master meter every single Wednesday, every week. So this is the date and the meter reading, and then the production, and how much was produced in that area. So when you come over here, you can see the total production in the system in January for the whole month. You have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then total production. Then you have total customer consumption in million gallons, and then you have the water loss percentage. So the water loss percentage right now, as it stands, is 77% at the end of February, just in the cold water area. We know that that's a treat system. I call it a branch, but there is a ton of things going on, and cold water has been identified as an area that we need to seek funding for line replacement, or there's a couple of sections of road on cold water where there's 4 different water mains going down the road. So we really need to look at this and assess this. When you talk about 77%, that's still only 3.2 million gallons a month going to cold water. We've got 30+ million gallons of water being lost every month in the district. So this is just a fraction of that water loss. And as we go through these, we start to see that happen in every single one. This one, I'm still trying to identify, like I said, with Otto Brown. You see this number, it says it's in the negatives because the customers that are supposedly in this zone are consuming more water than that master meter is actually producing. So I need to either identify whether that master meter needs to be replaced because it's old, but it's not old, or we have a tie-in somewhere at this station that is sending water to these customers that we are not aware of. That's something that we're running into time and time again as we go through this process. So that's a little bit about what we're doing on the water loss production, or the water loss process that we're trying to implement. Like I said, 1 question answered, 5 new questions. But when you break down the numbers and you start looking at the numbers in the individual areas, it really does help us identify where we need to do our leak detection and where we need to really press the most for funding agencies and funding sources for line replacement projects. It's been a huge help for building the CIP as well. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Steve and let Steve take over the project portion of the presentation. Steve?
Thank you, Craig, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity today to give a brief project status update on the water systems improvements projects in the Martin County Water District. Just quickly starting, and as we often do, just quickly go over some of the projects that have been completed. Those include the high school water storage tank and booster station telemetry, the Willis Dials Dance Branch road utility relocation. We've completed the hydraulic model. We utilize it to kind of see how the system's operating, and we continue to adjust the model to reflect modifications to the system. The raw water intake improvements, pump purchase only. That was the purchase of the 2 million, the 4 million, the 2 million and the 4 million gallon per day water intake pumps, along with the 4,000 gallon per minute river screen. And then lastly, the lovely mainline service line and meter replacement project. That project, as it originally scoped out, replaced 22,629 linear feet of main line and service line and 61 meters that were replaced with new radio read meters. And that's the kind that Craig kind of alluded to that you'd like to have all over the system. When that project was done with its original scope, there was some money remaining. It was approximately $86,000 remaining. So the district worked with the Big Sandy Area Development District to come up with a project to utilize these remaining ARC funds. As you know, there's many projects in the district and many needs that need to be addressed. And the funds that were remaining were perfect for one of the jobs or one of the needs that the district has. And that's the Kentucky 292 South Pumping Station and Kentucky 292 South Telemetry Project. It just so happens that the Kentucky 292 Pumping Station is located exactly where the ARC project ended. The last stick of pipe that was installed in the ground actually touched this pump station. However, neither the pumping station or the water storage tank, which is a 100,000 gallon water storage tank that this station pumps to, has any operating telemetry. Being unable to monitor their equipment remotely greatly inhibits the district's ability to respond in a timely manner when they have leaks. It affects their ability to monitor water loss, and should the pump run too long, it actually can overflow the tank and add to the water loss. Let's say right now these stations have to be turned off and on manually. If someone's working on a project and can't get out there in a timely manner, the tank may actually overflow. So this project will include a telemetry unit at both the pump station and the water storage tank that can communicate back and forth, along with a level sensor for monitoring the water level in the tank and some mechanical and electrical improvements to the pump station. What this will enable the district to do from the water treatment plant, or actually they can log in remotely from anywhere, look and see how much water is in the tank, see whether or not the pumps are running. They can actually turn them off, turn them on. So it'll be a great help to the district with some of the work or some of the needs that they have. And again, very thankful to both ARC and the Area Development District for facilitating this. The next thing we'd like to talk about is some projects that, or a project that's under construction. The big project, of course, that's under construction is the improvements at the raw water intake and water treatment plant. Again, at the intake, we're building a concrete ramp and winch system for moving the pumps up and down the slope. We're doing some electrical building upgrades because the electrical building that was out at the site could not handle the controls for the newer, larger pumps, along with telemetry, line reactors, and instrumentation. At the water treatment plant, we're rehabilitating clarifiers 1 and 3, putting in a new valve vault for clarifier 1. We're replacing the outside chlorine chemical feed piping and replacing the master meter there. Project construction began on October 4th, 2021. The scheduled construction completion date is July 31st of this year, with Pace Contracting of Louisville performing the work. As Craig mentioned earlier, we had a progress meeting today. Went very well. Contractor appears to be on schedule. You see some pictures here. Actually, the top right, that's where we were pouring the top to the valve vault. You can see some piping in the side of the valve vault that was connecting everything up to the water treatment plant in the top left. And just to see what these units look like when they're empty, that's the bottom right picture. Before we refurbish this entirely, we'll go in there and sandblast all the metal. We'll recoat that metal, and we'll also put epoxy on the concrete. Work to date includes completed demolition, removing the media and filter, removing the under drains, and pouring the valve vault for treatment unit 1. The contractors also tied treatment unit 1 drain pipes into valve vault 1 and is in the process right now of tying valve vault 1 into the water treatment plant. So as we've discussed before, this is a unit that is not operated since 2009, but we're getting close. Hopefully within the next few months, we'll have this unit online and producing water for the people of Martin County. As all of you know, we've experienced a lot of delays on a lot of projects, delays with equipment. So far, the contractor's done an excellent job of managing delivery of equipment. We went over his schedule again today. Tube settlers for treatment unit 1 are supposed to arrive early to mid-April. The tube settlers for treatment unit 3 are supposed to arrive early to mid-May. We're getting a lot of specialty valves in for this piping. They're scheduled to arrive between the last week of March and the first week of April. And then the last big component that's being fabricated off-site are the under drains for this unit. And right now they're scheduled to arrive on May the 6th. At the raw water intake, work to date includes excavation and pouring of a new concrete pump ramp, pouring a new valve vault out there, switching the pumps to temporary power. And as you can see in the top left-hand picture, that is a picture of the existing electrical raw water intake building that is being demoed. And they're pouring new piers for it now and will soon start rebuilding the newer, larger building. They basically received all of their equipment out there that they need with the exception of some electrical gear, and that's scheduled to come in May of this year. So the good news is if these vendors hold those delivery dates, which so far they continue to say they will meet those dates, this project, as in its original bidding, should finish on time, right around the end of July. Now, working with the ad and the district, they were able to secure some additional funding. And with that funding, they've chosen to put back in the replacement of the roof over the chemicals that are stored at the plant, and also install a whole plant backup generator that will automatically come on and power the plant anytime there's interruptions, such as an ice storm or flooding or anything that may keep the plant otherwise down for days. They'll continue to run and produce water. Now, this is one place where we are getting impacted by delivery dates. Right now, it's looking like the generator will not arrive until probably around Christmas. It'll take the month of January to be set, wired up, tested, and started. So unless the vendor there is able to reduce the delivery time there, we'll be a ways off on that generator. But the contractor right now believes that they can probably redo the roof in their existing contract time. Moving on to design projects that are awaiting funding. Craig mentioned it. The replacement of the existing mainline meters, service line valves, and hydrants in the Warfield area. This is the project that, due to the overage in the water treatment plant raw water intake project, we took that money away and used it for the plant because it had more pressing needs. Since that time, the district's continued working to get additional funding for the project. That's what Craig alluded to, the $1.5 million that Congressman Rogers announced will be going toward this project. Once the funds are in place, this is a project that can move to construction immediately. All the permits and approvals are in place that are required for construction. They've all been obtained, and this project is actually ready to go, truly shovel ready. We also have some projects that we're seeking funding for. First one, We talked about the backup generator at the plant and its importance. FEMA has a program right now where we're seeking funding for some backup generators for some other pump stations. The application's already been submitted, and we're doing some follow-up. We're answering some follow-up questions right now. This project would supply one generator at the raw water intake that would be capable of running the largest pump there, the 750 horsepower VFD controlled pump, and then 2 fixed generators at the 2 largest stations that the district has. So if we have an ice storm, if we have some kind of catastrophe, the plant can continue to run, the intake can continue to send water to the reservoir, and the largest stations can also continue to run. This would be a massive help in keeping people in service when we might have a catastrophe strike. Some projects in design. The first project's one we've talked about for a while. It's the penitentiary, Big Sandy, the Eastern Kentucky Business Park, and the Big Sandy Airport water improvements. As this project was originally submitted, there were some improvements in an existing pump station, a new tank, and a new pump station. However, as we've gotten into the system a little bit more, we've learned that there's some other deficiencies that have been recently keeping the district from pumping water to this area. The picture that you're looking at here is the DeVella station. It's actually a 60 horsepower station. Unfortunately, it's being supplied by the Otto Brown station, which is a 15 horsepower station. So what has been happening recently, the Otto Brown station, it's basically beyond its useful life. It's in a floodplain. It's an underground station. So it's subject to flooding, and it's subject to confined space constraints. So it is in effect preventing the district from pumping water to the business park and the airport. Therefore, this is obviously a big financial detriment to the district. It's about a $25,000 a month swing when they can't supply that water between losing their revenue to their customers and then what they have to pay Prestonsburg to supply the water. So because of that, working with the district and the ad, we put together a revised scope and forwarded that to AML for consideration. It meets the goal of the original project. The goal of the original project was to improve service at the business park and the airport and for the prison. This project does it. It just addresses a more immediate need, and that need being replacement of the Otto Brown station. But there would be components from both the original scope that would remain and then some proposed new components. As far as some of the components that would remain, we would still upgrade the existing DeValla pump station and do some work there. We would add a master meter so that they can monitor their flow in this area, and also add some booster chlorination capabilities so that they can better control their chlorine residual out in the end of the system. Some of the changes that the revised scope is proposing, we would relocate the proposed station. Instead of being constructed between the DeVella station and the business park, we would relocate it. It would be an above ground station that would replace the existing Otto Brown station. We would also replace some of the existing water line in the vicinity of the Otto Brown station. That being done simply because it's quite a spaghetti junction out there. There's lines going in every direction, and quite a few of them are subject to leaking. And lastly, rather than construct a new tank, we would do some modifications to the Middle Fork tank. Again, this is a project very important. The Otto Brown station has reached the end of its useful life and is inhibiting the ability of the district to provide water to the business park. Another project that's currently in design is the Rockhouse Creek utility relocation. This is another Bridge in Kentucky project, It's relocation of an existing water line to facilitate construction of a new bridge. That's a project that we're hoping will go to construction probably this summer, be done before the fall. The third project we'd like to talk about today is the high school pump station and tank piping modifications. This is the pump station and tank that was built 2 or 3 years ago to serve the high school. Through operation of it, we found out that the district doesn't have as much control over which direction they could send water as they would like to. So working with Craig and his people here, we've found out that we can install a valve vault with a check valve down there. This is a relatively low cost fix, and it'll give the district much greater flexibility in being able to feed water to different areas of the county, either in an emergency or even on a day-to-day plan. Lastly, we have 2 KYTC utility projects that are still awaiting funding. One of them is another bridge relocation project. We're just at the mercy of the highway department as to which one they bring up next. So that could go this year. If not, I would think it will certainly go next year. And also replacing or adding some guardrail along Kentucky 908, which will necessitate us relocating a 14-inch line. Again, that project they had some funding for, but not enough to do both the guardrail and the relocation. They've been working on obtaining some additional funding, and as soon as the funding is released, they've indicated that we'll be able to move forward with design on that project. And with that, if you have any questions for myself or Craig, either one, we'd be happy to entertain them, or any comments.
Steve, this is Kerry Johnson from the Division of Water. Just a real quick question for you. I noticed that $411,000 was allocated through the Cleaner Water Program this year to the district. Where was that the generator project that you had mentioned that funding went to?
I can answer that, Steve. That'll actually be announced. The governor will be announcing that Friday in Martin County, and that is exactly where that money will be coming from.
Well, Ben, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spill the beans. I was actually looking at it from the spreadsheet that I downloaded from KIA today, so I apologize. I got out ahead of that.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem. Everybody knew, because that was part of the monies of the Cleaner Water Program that was split up among all the counties. Of the 150 million that was split up with the 120 counties, and that was Martin County's portion. It was known it was going to be, but there's a little bit of a process to go through. But first process is the announcement, and that will be taken care of Friday. Anything else?
Nope, that was the question that I had. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Hi,
Nina?
yes. I'm wondering, the money that supposedly is coming in for the 40 homes that don't have access right now, does the district or the engineers, do they know where these homes are and how they will fit into the overall plan?
Nina, this is the first time let me rephrase that. When I read the article and the press release, it's the first time I've heard of 40 homes that are on a contaminated well, frankly. So that's news to me. I'm not aware of it. I'm looking into it, but I'm not aware of it at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Craig or Nina, I had thought about that myself. This is John. And I don't know if any of our AML folks are on here. Could this be from coal mining, contaminated water? James, are you on here? GM Cable, are you on here? I thought I saw you on here earlier. Maybe not. It could be that, but I'm not sure.
John, this is Bill Overman, Assistant Director with AML.
Yeah, Bill,
I'm not sure if that's related to money or not. We would need to know exactly where we are so we could compare it to what we have in the funds.
Yeah, when you hear contaminated water source, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, but we're not sure. So
Sure.
Well, it sounds like we need to do a little bit of investigation between now and our next meeting, to figure that out. So,
maybe our core
This is,
folks
yeah,
can-
thank you. This is Leslie from the Corps of Engineers. I don't have a ton of details, but my understanding is that the additional 1.5 million will be applied to like our existing project that we have. So Steve spoke about the one contract kind of being put on hold, and that money shifted to the water treatment plant and the raw water intake because that had higher priority. So I believe the 1.5 million is to be applied to the contract that we had kind of dropped off the table per se to work out the funding. So that has an existing project partnership agreement between the government and our two sponsors. And so, you know, we want to make sure that that scope is still in fact the same. We'll have to do an amendment to that agreement. I dropped a chat in the chat box, but you know, I don't know yet because the president just signed the bill yesterday, but I don't know yet when the funding's coming, or if there's any implementation guidance that will come with that. I was tight-lipped because I wasn't sure. I don't want to be the one to announce things. So, but I'll be working with Ben and Jimmy Kerr to kind of get that moving, as well as Bell. Over.
I concur with that, Leslie. I think that's exactly what was the intent when it was first asked, when the Congress office asked for us to try to do the line item. So I think you're absolutely right on that. And Steve, you'll know more about, you and Craig will know more about what we had to drop out of the original bidding documents because we was coming in over.
Yeah, so,
Yes,
sorry, it was water line replacement in the Warfield area. It's what we dropped out originally.
I guess Nina's question is a good one, and the Lane report says extension to 40 homes. My radar always goes up when I hear about an extension, but obviously if it's folks that got contaminated water, it doesn't sound like that was a part of the project originally. Is that what I'm understanding? There was not an extension as a part of that?
Yeah, that's correct, John. It's not an extension, it's a replacement. But, you know, even so, you know, I've been here going over 2 years now every day, and I have not had a single customer come to me that said that they're, you know, I'm not aware of any area where there's 40 homes I'm just not aware of it, where there are 40 homes on contaminated well water. There are a lot of homes still on well water in the county for sure. But I don't know of any specific area where there's 40 homes on well water. I just don't. So that's, when I saw that come out, I found it in actually the paper had asked me for a quote on it, and I told them I couldn't quote on it because I'm not aware of it. So I don't know where that came from.
Perhaps we can contact Congressman Rogers' office to see if we can get any details there, Amanda.
Yeah,
We'll work on that.
we will.
Yeah, this is Leslie again, and I'll be doing that too, you know, to make sure what the intent was from Congressman Rogers. But I felt like the amount kind of added up to that contract, if I'm remembering numbers correctly, you know, kind of added up to cover that overage.
All right, good deal. Any other questions for Craig or Mr. Caudle? All right, good deal. Well, Craig, congratulations on all of your certified operators. I'm always a big fan. Also on the oh my goodness, I can't say excavator.
Excavator.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this is how this is going to roll today, folks. All right. Thank you, too.
Thank you.
All right. So next up on the agenda is an update for our Division of Water and the technical subcommittee. So I welcome Carrie Johnson to the floor. Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate that. You can always call it a dirt digger if it comes down to a pinch.
You know, I should just keep to the small words today.
It's all good. So yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate that. I'll give a quick update from the technical subcommittee. We had our last meeting we had on March 2nd, so 2 weeks ago from today. The meeting largely focused around an operational update from Craig. So Craig, first and foremost, we appreciate that. And, the key message being there is it's good to hear that operationally the district is on the upswing. I know that operational addressing water loss was one of the system's main goals, and Craig and his staff are doing that by identifying and really getting granular by breaking down these various areas of the district and pinpointing where those issues are. Only by doing that are you really going to be able to kind of get a handle on things, just because of the overall complexity of the system. It's astounding, if you look at the system, the overall complexity of what's kind of happened over the years there. One of the things that I'll add is, the GIS system has been, enormously helpful. I know Craig has been using it, and he touts it in every meeting that we have with it. And it's great. It's a great way to visually depict those areas and pinpoint where not only the fixes have been done, but the various master meter zones. So Craig, I want to thank you for sharing that access with us, because it allows us to also look at things much more precisely even than the data that we have access to at the state. So that's very helpful. One of the keys that Craig mentioned in our last meetings, in 2021 alone, the district fixed over 400 leaks, and you still see what those water loss numbers are. So I think it's acknowledgeable that, operationally the district is on the upswing, and Alliance's role in that is certainly paramount. And really, that's one of the reasons why the technical subcommittee kind of did a bit of a mission shift, so to speak, at the end of last year, and looked at, a way that we could really focus Craig on his asset management goals and pointing him to the resources that are needed to rehabilitate the system. So more from a water loss or an operational input technical subcommittee to a planning and coordination, and how can we support Craig's operational and asset management goals. So, by doing that, I think what we've been successful, we're here to basically bridge the gap. One of Craig's goals that he mentioned, and I think is a laudable goal that we should all remember, is, sooner rather than later, Craig's goal is for the district to begin capital planning without incurring additional debt. So while Craig is transitioning to that period, that's one of the gap measures that the technical subcommittee and this work group as a whole, I think, can help the system out and use the lessons learned here with the Martin County group in other systems across the state. So I'm happy to say that, one of the things that the ideas that was brainstormed was an idea to tie system rehab with beautification projects in the county and the city. One of the things that we have to remember is that the water lines are basically the arteries of the system. And over time, and Craig, you could probably explain this much better than I ever could, but over time, the lungs, which is the intake really of the system, and those arteries, which are those distribution lines, they look like a 40-year smoker. They've become clogged and rerouted, and the stents are all worn out and everything. So we're at a point where identifying where those pressure problems are, where the bypasses and where the issues are, and then going and replacing those have really become a priority for the district. And as a technical subcommittee, our role is to help find, those various pots of funding that are available. And for the first time in my 20-year career, funding isn't one of the main limitations that we have in the water world. But, I say that, but by taking those pots of funding and basically pointing those in the right direction as to what the various needs of the district are, is really where this technical subcommittee, I think our strengths lie. So that's really our goal in helping Craig and the district and others really navigate through the process of not only finding what those projects are, but finding the right pot of funding. For example, the emergency generators, I'm very glad to hear that, there's the district is going after FEMA funding for those. There's a specific pot of funding for that. And each time we have a disaster declaration in the state, those dollars become available. So finding those projects and pointing them to the direct dollars, the appropriate funding pots is hugely important. But those aren't things that we would expect Craig or even Ben to really know everything about. And it's certainly nothing against either one of those gentlemen or the job that they do. But at the state level, we have kind of a larger role and are able to play chess with those various pieces in a very conceptual manner. Of course, we have to remember that execution largely gets done at the local level, but we're very much here as a planning resource. So in navigating the path, we think that there's going to be some great strengths that come out of it. Deputy Secretary Lyons mentioned the bipartisan infrastructure law and what that means to the Commonwealth. And it truly is a generational investment in water and wastewater infrastructure. I'm happy to say that, our friends in abandoned mine lands also were able to reap some of the benefits from the law as well. But there's also a considerable amount of resilience-based funding available as well. So I think that there's the ability to kind of bring everything together, especially in the district here and other districts and communities across the state, to really impart, some beneficial change through the investments that are coming. But we have to be very strategic about it. And I think this was also mentioned, but the FY22 omnibus bill was just signed by the president yesterday. So that means everything, not only in the bipartisan infrastructure law that was waiting on the omnibus bill to be funded, has now been funded. So it's game on for everything in the federal government, and those federal agencies are developing guidance, and we'll be reaching out to various partners for implementation. So our goal, very much at the division water level, is to begin strategically planning for that implementation, because it has begun. And it'll be a very interesting time. And the funding in the bill lasts for 5 years, but programmatically, we're looking at 15 to 20 years of implementation. So, very happy to say that, but the work is just beginning for all of us, so to speak. But, now is a really great time for, after 2 years of having these work groups, not only the technical work group, but the overall work group, that we've kind of matured into where our natural strengths lie. In the technical subgroup, there's funding available. We have various folks with expertise in different parts of water and wastewater infrastructure. We can impart that and share that, I think, with the district directly. And then overall, we have the ability for folks to provide feedback on how we can improve. And that's one of the best way to improve overall, is to listen to our stakeholders and implement that feedback as best as we can. So, that's basically what I have for the technical subcommittee. Again, largely we've evolved from focusing on water loss, because that is very much an operational aspect of a water system, to really supporting and helping support the system in planning and implementation. So it's really great for us to hear all the projects. So I appreciate that from Steve and Craig this morning. But I'm sure there's more projects out there that need to be vetted and prioritized as well. And very much we have not only the willingness, but I think the expertise to provide some good insight there. So that being said, I believe that concludes the technical subcommittee update, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Carrie? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you, Carrie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on the agenda is an update from the Public Service Commission. So I invite Chairman Kent Chandler to the floor. Hi, Kent.
Amanda, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I don't have much. We haven't done any recent inspections, but as Craig mentioned, we have recently issued an order on, I guess last time we met it would have been called the pending rate case, but Martin County's most recent rate case. I just wanted to go over a couple of the high points of it, and then take as many questions as I guess I can to speak about it. But just ordinarily, if we're going to talk about a commission order, I just want to remind everybody that anything I say that deviates from what the actual order says is my own characterization. I certainly can't speak on behalf of the commission or do anything contrary or say anything contrary to the order, because the commission can only speak through the orders. As most of you all are aware, on February 8th, the PSC issued a final order in Martin County's rate case. It was filed, I think, April 8th. The commission initially suspended the rates for that, but along with the application, Martin County requested to place the rates into effect subject to refund given the financial position of the utility. The statute permits that only after a hearing and I think a finding. I'll probably get the standard wrong, but effectively the commission must make a finding to allow the rates to go into effect. In the interim, WAD investigates the sufficiency or adequacy of the rates. We have to make a finding that there's some sort of detrimental impact to the utility's finances or ability to operate. So the commission, we held a hearing and then ultimately allowed the proposed rates to go into effect. I believe it was July the 9th, subject to subsequent investigation. So the final order entered on February the 8th approved an average rate increase, or a rate increase for the average residential customer of 21.21%. As part of the order, we did express concern about the utility's current rate design. That concern was really brought forward by, the evidence that underlined that concern was really brought forward by the Martin County Concerned Citizens. This is my personal perspective. Water rates are much more generic and blunt than, say, gas rates and electric rates. Certainly the rates for publicly owned utilities and investor-owned utilities deviate significantly in how aligned they are with cost of service. And that's even more true when we're talking about very small water districts that necessarily haven't spent the money and gone through the cost of producing cost of service studies for most cases or any cases over a prolonged period. And based off that concern with the rate design, and given that the commission did approve a increase that we think was necessary, but certainly more than initially requested, we required the utility to come back and in 2023 file another rate review or a rate adjustment case. And again, speaking for myself, I frankly have a hope that if Martin County can do something to alleviate this, this $1 million of accounts payable that's hanging over their head, if they can come to some sort of satisfactory outcome with that, if they could, work on some of their debt, get some of this this money that's available for major infrastructure overhauls, get we'll call it non-revenue water, whatever the cause of it is, if they can get those numbers down, that subsequent rate review will either be overall rates staying the same, the total revenue requirement effectively being flat or going down, and that the case would be primarily focused on that cost of service study and rate design issues. So we specifically stated as part of that rate design issue in the order that in that subsequent case, that the PSC may consider moving those surcharges that the utility currently has, instead of charging them on a per meter basis, moving them into base rates, even though the revenue may or may not still be directed towards those specific costs. Part of the final order, the commission reaffirmed the commitment to the goal of attaining affordable, adequate service for Martin County's customers. For 2 decades now, the Public Service Commission has opened up investigations, found issues, and then the second they think they're addressed, left town, for lack of a better term. And I think that if anything, over the last 6 years, it's been clear that the commission has no interest in doing that, that we're going to stick it out until the end. So we just want to make sure that it's clear that we're not just here to, occasionally adjudicate a rate case, that our financial analysis staff, our legal staff, and our inspection staff still stand ready to help the utility in any way they can, enable the goal of providing that affordable and adequate service to customers who deserve it. With that, though, the rate increase was necessary. In order to get the utility to a place where the rates can ultimately be affordable, but that the service is adequate, the utility cannot continue to run an operating deficit. It just can't. And with that, something that's similar to what Kerry Johnson said, frankly, it can't be wholly dependent on free money from outside sources for its capital needs, capital planning requirements. At some point, the utility has to be able to recover appropriate depreciation through rates in order to fund investments and upgrades and replacements. As part of the final order, just to make it very clear, the commission did find that the utility was operating at a loss and was still accruing accounts payable. It was not breaking even and just couldn't pay its old bills. It was accruing new accounts payable. And so a rate increase was necessary, not just to get things accelerating in the right direction, but still to turn the ship around. I think that just as a data point, the test year water loss amount was still 65% in the most recent rate case. I don't know what that is today on a given month. I know it can fluctuate significantly depending on a couple of single circumstances. But I just want to note that water loss still is a significant opportunity, I think, to get the cost down for the entire system for customers. And then finally, I just want to reiterate, and I think most people are aware here, that in the interim order that the commission put out last July, that primarily Chairman Schmidt at the time noted an interest in regionalization. In a concurring opinion, I think that Vice Chair Covage has indicated an interest in that. And I think that's imperative, whether it's actual consolidation of utilities or whether it's joint management, joint purchasing. I think that all cards have to be on the table to look at reducing costs for our rural water utilities across the state, but in particular those that have higher rates that seem to be focused in East Kentucky. There are a couple of utilities that are in the vicinity of Martin County, and so even if it's not actual consolidation or merger, I do think there are opportunities there to reduce costs for all customers. And it's not going to be a silver bullet situation. There is not a silver bullet solution to problems that are facing the utility. But every little bit counts. Anything that we can get down, any cost that we can get down for the utility is ultimately going to flow through rates and benefit the customers. And so I think it's worthwhile looking into them. And that's all I have, Amanda. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can answer. I can't go through and pick out things from the order to translate or something like that, but I'm happy to help and provide any insight that I'm able to.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Does anyone have any questions for the Chairman? I'm just checking the chat real quick. All right. Thank you, Chairman Chandler. All right. So that ends our updates for the day. At this point, I'd like to open the floor for open discussion and invite the concerned citizens if they'd like to say something or just have some time for open discussion here.
Well, this is Nina McCoy.
Hi, Nina.
And I'd just like to say that as we are, as we're dealing with this and new money coming in, and, we got to remember too that 1/4 of our citizens are on a sewer system that is also a problem. And so if Big Sandy Ad or anybody sees some money coming through that says failing sewer system situations, don't forget that that's a possibility too that we have dire need of, and our people are it's a bad system. So
That's a very good thought, and obviously there's lots of infrastructure money coming in different pots, and I know that I think Ben is probably scoping things out pretty heartily, and I know that we're looking to look at the ways that we can connect communities with different pots of funding that we have, for various and sundry things, water, wastewater, and other things as well. So we're trying to help. Everybody's trying to help connect the dots, and to find those applicable pots of funding and stick them where it's the great puzzle game right now. So, but I very much appreciate that comment. Ben, you popped on. You showed your mug, so
It's duly noted, Nina. The bipartisan infrastructure, we're trying to get our arms around it right now, and I'm sure there'll be more details coming out on that, exactly how that money will be broke down in the state of Kentucky. But just like the ARP funds was done with the $250 million that was coming in. So we're seeing that there's going to be more money coming down the road, and I'm sure that it'll be addressing sewer as well as the water on that. But I haven't seen all those details yet exactly. And KIA will probably, through the SRF, I think most of that will be flowing through them. I think someone alluded to that earlier. And so I'm sure that it'll be a little bit of a moving target until we get all the details from the feds on that.
yeah, and it's all trickling out as they've tried to figure things out and figure out their funding mechanisms. So stay tuned. I think we learn something every week as it comes down the pike. So we'll keep everybody informed as much as we can as well. So any other discussion points?
well, when we do mention regionalization, there was a line to Kermit that would allow Kermit, West Virginia. That's, the other state, but still, if there is money that is like, how can we get money for regionalization? If we could fix the broken line to Kermit, that could be a possible source for a second backup.
Okay. Noted. All right. Other comments? Well, I do see a future work group meeting on June the 8th. Ben Hale, I'm looking at you, and I'm hoping I'm not jinxing us when I'm saying, hey, can we book your conference room for June the 8th and maybe meet in person? I'm being optimistic. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Amanda. I have no problem with that. I just hope the COVID situation in the East here is completely eased up like some of the parts of the state. But no, I have no problem with that. I'll go up and jot you all down for June the 8th. I would love for you all to be able to get up here and actually see Eastern Kentucky and like you used to be able to. It's been a couple of years, so I would look forward to having you all and hosting you all.
We also have several large conference rooms at the community center here in Martin County, if everyone would like to come to Martin County. I know we've done for several years, we've been doing these meetings, and maybe a trip to Martin County would be great. And we have 2 large conference rooms we could facilitate a large group with.
Well, that's even better. I didn't know about your conference rooms, but I like to pester Ben Hale, so that's where I went first. So apologies, but
Never
do that too. Just being nice today to him.
Thanks, Craig.
So
Well-
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that we can meet in person in June. And because I think we had one in-person meeting and that was it. So we'll tentatively mark it on calendars. How about that?
Okay. And and Craig, that one conference room over there is pretty big, and it is as big as ours, if I remember.
Well, there's one that's about the same size as yours, and then there's another one that's even bigger, Ben.
Okay.
So,
Let's
Yeah.
just plan on that then. Tentative right now for Martin County, and
And we'll always offer a virtual option too. So yeah,
that's not in a hybrid. We'll do a hybrid on it.
we'll do a hybrid. So all right. Unless there's anything else, I will call this to a close.
Yeah.
We thank everyone. We thank everyone for their hard work and their updates, and as we continue through this process. So hope to see you soon in person. Thanks all.
thanks, everyone.